Attention all cars, attention all cars. Firefighting crews have put out the blaze of Grime's novelty and gags. Arson investigation team report to fire scene immediately.
A fire at Grime's Novelties. Sounds like the police think someone deliberately tried to burn down the store.
Let's get over there and see if we can help out. Poor Mr. Grimes. The firemen have done a good job of putting out the fire, but look at this mess. Let's see what clues we can find.
I'm ruined. I can't afford to rebuild all this. I should have sold out to Brass Monkey Antiques when I had the chance. Their owner, Mr. Edwards, made me another offer over dinner at Swank's Cafe just last week. I wonder if that kook, Professor Krank, had anything to do with this. I had to fire him last week, and he was furious about it.
The fire must have started around 10 last night. It looks to me like a clear-cut case of arson. The crime lab should have a report to the police chief later today.
The police may be able to tell us more about the fire. Let's pay them a visit.
Nice to see you two. Help from the Eagle Eye Detective Agency is always welcome. I'm afraid we're at a dead end on this one. The crime lab came up with fingerprints on the empty silver can found in the shop, but they don't match any in our files.
Mr. Edwards owns the Brass Monkey Antique Store. Let's ask him if he knows anything about the fire.
Arson at Grime's Novelties? Ha! I'll bet Grimes did it himself, so he could claim the money from his insurance policy. He was trying to convince me to buy the store last week over dinner. What would I want with a gag shop?
Mr. Edwards smokes cigarettes. Gross! Doesn't he know they'll make him sick?
Ahem. I'm sure my private papers are no concern of yours, but as you seem so interested, you may as well know how pushy Mr. Grimes was about selling his shop. He hounded me to go over these blueprints. I guess he was trying to convince me that his location would be perfect for the new store I might open.
What's that smell?
Swank's is a really fancy hotel. They have the best restaurant in town. It's also the most expensive place to eat in Richview. Miss Case is the manager.
Mr. Grimes and Mr. Edwards had dinner at our restaurant recently. I remember because Mr. Grimes kept raising his voice. He told Mr. Edwards that he wouldn't sell his store at any price. Mr. Edwards was very upset that Mr. Grimes refused to sell. On his way out, he demanded some matches for his cigarette, and almost bit my head off when I gave them to him.
Everyone in Richview knows Professor Krank. He teaches over at the college in Mount Vernon. He's very, very smart, but a little strange.
Can't you see I'm busy? I don't know anything about that fire at Grimes, but it serves him right. I worked part-time for him until last week. He fired me just because my new invention, the exploding cheeseburger, blew a hole in his stockroom and set the workbench on fire. No sense of humor.
It looks like we've collected enough evidence to go to the police. Pick the 4 clues that will best help them arrest the right suspect. Those are the clues we need. Now point to the person you suspect of being the arsonist. You're right! Mr. Edwards is the arsonist. Let's check the evidence. Mr. Grimes told us that he had turned down Mr. Edwards' offer to buy his novelty store. We found a used matchbook from Swank's and an empty silver can at the scene of the crime. At the police station, we learned that the fire at Grimes was started with acetone. At Swank's hotel, Ms. Case told us she heard Mr. Grimes refusing to sell his store to Mr. Edwards. She also said she gave Mr. Edwards a Swank's matchbook like the one found at the fire. Mr. Edwards told us that he wasn't interested in buying Mr. Grimes' store, but he had the store's blueprints on his desk. The acetone that Mr. Edwards uses to strip old varnish from antiques comes in the same kind of can as the one we found at the scene of the fire. You're right! Mr. Edwards burned down Grimes' Novelties and Gags.